Eliza dropped the lantern before she understood why her hands had let go. Glass cracked against the dirt floor. Oil spread in a dark stain. The weak flame flickered once, then died. She stood in the doorway of the old barn with one hand still gripping the swollen wood, her body locked so hard it hurt to breathe. The swing moved slowly in front of her. Back and forth. Back and forth. No wind touched the room. The windows were nailed shut. Dust hung in the stale air like it had not been disturbed in years. Still, the small wooden seat creaked as if someone invisible had only just stepped away. Eliza whispered, "No." Her throat tightened. On the ground beneath the swing sat a pair of muddy boots, placed neatly beside each other like an offering. She stared until her stomach turned cold. She knew those boots. Everyone in town knew them. Jonah Hale wore them the summer he vanished. She stepped backward too fast and hit the frame with her shoulder. Pain shot through her arm. She didn't feel it. A voice came from outside. "Eliza?" She did not answer. Boots scraped gravel. "Eliza, you in there?" Thomas appeared at the doorway a second later, tall enough to block half the light. He looked from her face to the dark inside. "What happened?" She swallowed. "Nothing." He frowned. "You look like death." "I'm fine." "You're shaking." "I said I'm fine." Thomas leaned past her shoulder and peered inside. His expression changed immediately. Not surprise. Not confusion. Something smaller and uglier. Recognition. He stepped into the barn. "You shouldn't be here," he said. Eliza turned toward him. "What is that?" Thomas kept his eyes on the swing. "Old junk." "That is not junk. It's wood and rope. It's moving." He rubbed his jaw. Then stopped staring at it. She looked at him harder now. "You knew." "No." "You knew this was in here." He exhaled through his nose. "Everyone knows not to open this place." "That's not what I asked." Thomas finally met her eyes. "Drop it." Something in his voice made the air feel smaller. Eliza looked back toward the swing. Her eyes drifted lower. There, near the far wall, sat a patch of dirt darker than the rest. Fresh. Uneven. Recently disturbed. Her chest tightened again. "What's over there?" Thomas moved quickly, too quickly. "Nothing." He stepped between her and the wall. Eliza stared at him. "Move." "No." "Move. Go back to the house. You're hiding something." Thomas gave a short laugh with no humor in it. "You opened a locked barn. We're both already hiding something." Eliza shoved past him. He caught her wrist. "Don't." She yanked free. "Get your hands off me." Her boots sank slightly into softer ground as she crossed the barn. That alone told her enough. She crouched and pressed trembling fingers into the dirt. Loose. Recently turned. Definitely not old. Behind her, Thomas muttered a curse. "Eliza." She ignored him. Her hand brushed something hard under the dirt. Not stone. Wood. She dug faster, nails packing with mud. Dirt pushed under her sleeves. Her breathing came sharp and shallow. Thomas crouched beside her. "Stop. Help me." "No." "Then leave." "You don't know what you're doing." Neither did he. That was clear now. She dug until her fingers hooked under a small metal edge. Together they pulled a rusted tin box from the ground, coated in wet soil and smelling like iron. Neither of them spoke. Eliza wiped mud across the lid and forced it open. Inside sat folded papers tied with ribbon, a tarnished silver badge, and several crumpled drawings stained brown with age. Her hands hovered. Thomas went pale. "Close it." "No." Eliza, close it. She picked up one drawing. A child had sketched a barn. A swing. A small figure standing beneath it. Beside the figure was a tall woman with blacked-out eyes scratched so hard the paper had nearly torn. Eliza stared. What is this? Thomas looked away. She grabbed his sleeve. Tell me. He pulled back. Put it down. Who drew this? I don't know. You're lying. His jaw tightened. Before he could answer, Eliza noticed words carved into the wooden wall beside them, half hidden under years of grime. She wiped dust away. The letters appeared slowly beneath her fingertips. She kept him here. Her breath stopped. For one long second, the barn seemed to hold itself still. No creak. No insects. No sound. Then footsteps crunched outside the door. Heavy. Slow. Deliberate. Thomas looked up first. His face drained of color. Eliza, he said quietly. Someone was coming. The footsteps stopped just outside the threshold. Neither of them moved. Eliza clutched the drawing so tightly the paper bent in her fist. A shadow crossed the thin strip of light under the door. Once. Then again. Whoever stood outside was not in a hurry. Thomas rose slowly and placed himself between Eliza and the entrance. Hide the box, he whispered. Who is it? She asked. Doesn't matter. Tell me. Now, Eliza. Her pulse hammered so hard it blurred her vision. She shoved the letters back inside, snapped the lid shut, and pushed the tin beneath a broken crate. The barn door groaned softly on its hinges. Someone touched it from the other side. Then a voice came through the crack, calm and low. Open this door. Eliza looked at Thomas. He did not blink. Outside, Knuckles tapped wood twice, patient as a man already invited inside. Once. The footsteps stopped outside the threshold and the barn fell into a silence sharp it felt alive. Eliza stayed crouched beside the disturbed dirt, her fingers muddy, her pulse climbing into her throat. Thomas stood in front of her like a wall, shoulders tense, eyes fixed on the door. Another knock came. Slow. Certain. Open it, the voice said again. Eliza whispered, Who is that? Thomas didn't turn. Stay quiet. The latch rattled. Then the door pushed inward a few inches before sticking against swollen wood. Sheriff Crow stepped into the gap, broad shoulders filling the entrance. His badge caught a stripe of afternoon light. His face was calm in the way dangerous men looked calm. He scanned the barn once. His eyes landed on Eliza. Then on Thomas. What are you doing in here? No one answered. Crow shut the door behind him. That felt worse. Thomas cleared his throat. Just checking for rats. Crow looked at him without expression. You take me for an idiot? No, sir. Good. His gaze shifted lower. Straight to the loose dirt. Eliza felt her stomach fold. Crow walked toward them, boots heavy against old boards. He crouched near the patch of earth and touched it with 2 fingers. Fresh. He knew immediately. His jaw tightened. What did you move? Thomas answered too fast. Nothing. Crow stood. Wrong answer. Eliza rose slowly. I was told to clean. Crow looked at her as if noticing her for the first time. You're the new maid. Yes. You don't ask questions? Not usually. Then today should not be special. His voice was almost polite. That made it colder. Eliza crossed her arms to hide her shaking hands. There's a child's swing hanging in a seal barn. Crow shrugged once. Old owners leave old things. And muddy boots under it? Silence. Thomas muttered, Enough. Crow's eyes sharpened. What boots? Eliza instantly regretted speaking. Too late. She swallowed. Nothing. Crow stepped closer. What boots? Thomas moved between them. She's rattled. That's all. Crow stared at him for a long moment. Then he smiled without warmth. You're suddenly protective. Thomas didn't answer. Crow tilted his head. That worries me. He pushed past Thomas and walked deeper into the barn. His fingers brushed the swing as he passed. It slowed slightly, then kept moving. Back. Forth. Back. Forth. Even Crow paused. Only for a second. He recovered fast. His eyes lifted to the far wall. That was when he saw the carving. She kept him here. A small change crossed his face. Barely there, but Eliza caught it. Recognition. Not surprise. Recognition. She spoke before fear could stop her. What does that mean? Crow turned. It means you should learn when to mind your own business. Was Jonah Hale here? Thomas shut his eyes briefly. Crow's expression hardened like stone. Who told you that name? No one. You recognized the boots. Eliza said nothing. Crow stepped close enough that she could smell tobacco and dust in his coat. Listen carefully, he said. There are places in this town built to stay closed. And this is one of them? Yes. Why? Because curious people get hurt. Thomas cut in quickly. She understands. Crow ignored him. His gaze dropped to Eliza's hands. Mud under her nails. A torn cuticle bleeding. Evidence. You dug here. Eliza held still. Crow's voice lowered. What did you find? Nothing. A beat. Then another. Crow extended one hand. Give it to me. She blinked. I don't have anything. He waited. Thomas said quietly, Eliza. She looked at him. Something in his face had changed. Not warning now. Pleading. Give it up. Whatever you took, surrender it. But Eliza suddenly understood something simple and ugly. If Crow wanted it this badly, then it mattered. And if it mattered, she could not hand it over. She shook her head. Crow sighed once, disappointed more than angry. That's unfortunate. He grabbed her wrist hard enough to make her gasp. Thomas lunged forward. Let her go. Crow shoved him back with one arm. Stay where you are. Thomas hit a support beam and cursed. Eliza twisted against Crow's grip. You're hurting me. That depends on your next decision. His fingers tightened. What did you take? She stared at him, breathing fast. Nothing moved except the swing. Back. Forth. Back. Forth. Finally Eliza said, I took nothing. Crow studied her face, searching for cracks. He found none. Slowly, he released her wrist. Seal this place again, he told Thomas. Thomas rubbed his shoulder. Yes, sir. Crow turned toward the door, then stopped. Without facing them, he said, some things are buried for mercy. He opened the barn. Light spilled in. For whose mercy? Eliza asked. Crow looked back once. His face had gone strangely tired. That depends who survives truth. Then he walked outside. The sound of his boots faded across gravel. Neither Eliza nor Thomas moved. At last Thomas exhaled. You should have handed it over. Eliza rubbed her wrist. No. You don't understand what you touched. Then explain it. Thomas stared at the carving on the wall. For a long time, he said nothing. Finally he muttered, not here. He bent, lifted a crate, and froze. The tin box was gone. The barn door slammed open so hard the wood shuddered. Eliza flinched before she even saw who stepped in. Dust lifted from the floor in a thin wave, catching in the light like smoke. Sheriff Crow stood in the entrance, his hand still on the door, eyes already scanning the inside like he had been here in his mind before he arrived. Thomas straightened fast. "Sir." Crow didn't answer him. His gaze went straight to Eliza. Then to the ground. Then to the disturbed dirt. A long silence stretched. No one moved. Crow finally spoke. "Step away from that." Eliza didn't. Thomas shifted closer to her. "We were just..." Crow cut him off. "I didn't ask." His voice was calm, but it carried weight that made the air feel tighter. Eliza said quietly, "You already know what's under there." Crow's jaw tightened slightly. "You don't know anything." "That's not an answer." Thomas whispered, "Eliza, stop." Crow walked forward one step. Then another. Boots slow, deliberate, scraping faintly against old wood. "You should not be in this barn," Crow said. Eliza didn't look away. "Then why is it open?" Crow stopped. For a fraction of a second, something flickered across his face. Not anger. Not fear. Something older. Memory. Then it was gone. He crouched near the dirt patch and pressed 2 fingers into it. Fresh soil stuck to his skin. "Who touched this?" he asked. Silence. Thomas cleared his throat. "It's just ground, sir." "Probably animals digging." Crow looked at him without blinking. "Wrong answer." Eliza stepped forward. "I did." Thomas snapped, "Eliza." Crow rose slowly. His eyes locked on her. "You dug here?" "Yes." "Why?" "I was told to clean the barn." "That's not cleaning." "I didn't know what it was." Crow studied her face. "And now you do?" Eliza hesitated. That hesitation was enough. Crow's voice dropped. "What did you see?" Eliza swallowed. "A swing." Crow's expression barely changed, but something in his shoulders tightened. Thomas said quickly, "Old junk. Nothing important." Crow turned his head slightly toward Thomas. "You speak too much for someone standing in my barn." Thomas went quiet. Eliza continued, "And boots." Child-sized drawings. A box buried under the floor. Crow went still. That was the first real crack. Not visible to most people. But Eliza saw it. He asked softly, "Where is it now?" Thomas answered before she could. "Gone." Crow looked down at him. "Gone?" Thomas nodded once. "When you came in, it wasn't there." A long pause. Crow exhaled slowly through his nose. "Show me where it was." Eliza pointed. Crow walked over, knelt again, and studied the empty space. His hand hovered above it but did not touch. "You opened it," he said. Eliza didn't deny it. Thomas shifted uneasily. "Sir, if there was something buried." Crow stood suddenly. "There was nothing." The words came too fast. Too clean. Eliza tilted her head. "Then why are you here?" Crow stared at her. "Because you're standing in a place you don't understand." "That doesn't answer anything." "It's not supposed to." Silence fell again, but now it felt different. The barn was no longer just old wood and dust. It felt watched. Crow stepped closer to Eliza. "You listen carefully," he said. "What happens in this barn stays in this barn." Eliza's voice was low. "Why?" Crow didn't answer. Thomas said, "Maybe we should all just leave it alone." Crow snapped his eyes toward him. "You think this is your decision?" Thomas stiffened. "No, sir." Crow turned back to Eliza. "Whatever you think you saw, you didn't." Eliza held his gaze. I saw a child's swing moving with no wind. Crow didn't respond. She continued, and boots that don't belong to anyone living. Still nothing. Her voice hardened slightly. And writing on the wall saying she kept him here. That landed. A pause too long. Crow finally spoke, quieter now. You didn't read that. Eliza blinked. I did. No. Thomas looked between them. What does that even mean? Crow ignored him. He stepped closer to Eliza until there was barely space between them. You're mistaken, he said. Or you're trying to be important in something that will swallow you. Eliza didn't move back. Swallow me? Yes. Like Jonah Hale? That name cut through the barn. Crow's face changed immediately. Not anger. Control breaking for half a second. Then rebuilt. Don't say that name, he said. Eliza's voice sharpened. Why? Crow grabbed her wrist. Fast. Hard. Thomas reacted instantly. Let her go. Crow didn't look at him. Stay back. Eliza tried to pull away. You're hurting me. Crow's grip tightened. Listen to me. I am listening. No, you're not. Thomas stepped forward again. Crow shoved him hard. Thomas hit the beam and cursed under his breath. Eliza twisted her arm. What is wrong with you? Crow leaned closer, voice low. You want truth? Truth doesn't belong here. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. For a moment, no one spoke. Only the swing creaked behind them. Back. Forth. Back. Forth. Eliza looked over his shoulder toward it. Crow noticed. His grip loosened slightly. A mistake. Eliza pulled free and stepped back. Thomas moved quickly to her side. Crow didn't chase her. He just stood there, watching both of them. Then he said, "This barn is closed from this moment." Thomas frowned. "Sir?" Crow turned toward the door. "You will leave. You will forget what you think you saw." Eliza laughed once, short and bitter. "Forget it?" Crow didn't look at her. "Yes." Thomas asked carefully, "And the box?" Crow paused at the doorway. Just for a second. Then, there was no box. He stepped outside. The door stayed open behind him, letting daylight spill across the floor. For a long moment, neither Eliza nor Thomas moved. Then Thomas whispered, "He knows." Eliza looked at the empty space where the box had been. "No," she said quietly. "He's protecting it." Thomas shook his head. "From what?" Eliza didn't answer immediately. Because she didn't know anymore. But something inside her had already changed. The barn no longer felt empty. It felt watched from both sides now. And somewhere deep under the floor, the truth wasn't gone. It was just hidden again. The knock came again before Eliza even reached the door. Not loud. Not urgent. Just certain. 3 slow taps. She didn't open it right away. Thomas stood behind her in the narrow servant hallway, arms crossed, listening. "Don't answer it," he said. Another knock. Same rhythm. Eliza whispered, "Who does that?" Thomas shook his head. "No one decent." The knock came a third time. Then stopped. A pause followed. Heavy. Waiting. Eliza reached for the latch. Thomas grabbed her wrist. "I said don't." She looked at him. "Then you open it." He hesitated. That hesitation told her everything. She opened the door. A woman stood there. Not young. Not old either. Hard to place. Dressed in dark fabric too plain to be fashionable, too clean to be local labor. Her hair was pinned back tightly, like she had decided years ago that softness was not useful. She didn't smile. She looked directly at Eliza. "You opened it," the woman said. Eliza froze. Thomas stepped forward slightly. "Ma'am, you got the wrong door." The woman ignored him. Her eyes stayed on Eliza. "You went inside the barn." Eliza's throat tightened. "Who are you?" A pause. Then, Mara Hale. The name landed like a dropped stone. Thomas went still behind her. Eliza whispered, "Jonah's mother." Mara didn't react to that. Not surprise. Not confirmation. Just acceptance. "You touched what was buried," Mara said. Eliza didn't answer. Thomas muttered, "We didn't take anything." Mara finally looked at him. For the first time. "You lie badly." Thomas stiffened. "Excuse me?" Mara turned back to Eliza. "You took a letter." Eliza's heart skipped. "How do you know that?" Mara stepped inside without waiting for permission. The hallway suddenly felt smaller, like the house itself didn't want her there. "Because I wrote them," she said. Silence dropped hard. Eliza's mouth went dry. "You wrote them?" Mara nodded once. Thomas frowned. "That doesn't make sense." Mara looked at him again. "It doesn't need to make sense to you." Eliza stepped back slowly. "Why would you write letters and bury them?" Mara's voice didn't rise. "Because speaking them was not allowed." That hit something deeper in the room. Eliza's voice lowered. "What happened to Jonah?" Mara didn't answer immediately. She looked past Eliza, down the hallway, as if seeing something behind the walls. Then she said, "You should not be standing here asking that." Thomas crossed his arms. "People are missing." "That's exactly what we should be asking." Mara turned her head slightly. "You think he is missing," she said. Eliza felt cold spread through her chest. "Isn't he?" A long pause. Mara finally said, "Missing means someone is looking." Thomas muttered, "We are." Mara shook her head once. "No. You are reacting. Not searching." Eliza swallowed. "Tell us." Mara stepped closer. Now her voice dropped lower. "The barn is not a storage place. It is a decision." Thomas frowned. "What does that mean?" Mara looked at him like he was something she had stopped trying to fix. "It means," she said, "some things are kept alive by silence. And some things are kept silent by force." Eliza whispered, "Was Jonah alive in there?" That question changed the air. Mara's eyes flickered. Just for a second. Then she said, "Don't ask questions you are not prepared to carry." Eliza shook her head. "He was a child." Mara's expression tightened. "He was my child." Thomas stepped forward. "Then why didn't you stop it?" Mara turned sharply. The first real emotion appeared in her face. Not anger. Grief, controlled too tightly. "I tried," she said. Thomas didn't back down. "Did you?" Mara's voice sharpened. "You do not understand the structure you are standing inside." Eliza cut in, "We found his boots." Mara went still again. "Where?" "In the barn." Mara closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, something in her head shifted. "Then it is no longer just hidden," she said. Thomas frowned. "What does that mean?" Mara ignored him and turned back to Eliza. "You will give me the letter." Eliza shook her head immediately. "No." Mara didn't react fast. She simply said, "You will." Eliza's voice trembled slightly. "Why?" Mara stepped closer again. Because now there was something dangerous in her calm. "Because if you keep it," she said, "they will decide you are part of it." Thomas muttered, "Who is they?" Mara looked at him like the answer should have been obvious. The ones who built the barn, she said. Eliza felt her stomach drop. Crow? Mara didn't confirm. But she didn't deny it either. Instead she said, by morning, they will start correcting what you disturbed. Thomas frowned. Correcting? Mara nodded once. Replacing stories. Rewriting names. Moving truth back underground. Eliza stepped forward. I don't care about stories. Mara's eyes locked onto hers. You should, she said quietly. Stories decide who survives consequences. Silence again. Longer this time. Thomas broke it. Why are you telling us this? Mara hesitated. The first crack in her control. Because I already lost him, she said. Her voice didn't break. But something inside it did. Eliza's tone softened slightly. Then help us understand. Mara looked at her for a long moment. Then she said, leave before sunrise. Thomas scoffed. That's it? That's your warning? Mara turned to him. No, she said. That is your only chance. Eliza asked quietly, what happens at sunrise? Mara's answer came like a final door closing. They stopped pretending it was ever empty. She turned to leave. Eliza stepped forward. Wait. Mara paused in the doorway. Eliza's voice was steady now, even if her hands weren't. If Jonah is gone, what was in the barn? Mara didn't look back when she answered. Something that should have stayed buried, she said. Then she left. And the hallway felt colder than before she arrived. Eliza found Thomas in the kitchen with his hands on the table like he was holding himself up from collapsing. The house felt different after Mara left. Not quieter. Heavier. Thomas didn't look at her when she entered. She was here too long, he said. Eliza closed the door behind her. She knew everything. That's the problem, Thomas replied. People who know everything don't come to warn you. Eliza sat across from him. Then why did she? Thomas shook his head once. Because you're already inside it. Silence settled between them. Eliza finally pulled the folded letter from her apron. Thomas saw it immediately. His face tightened. You still have that? Yes. You should have given it to her. I don't trust her. Thomas gave a short laugh. You trust no one, but you keep picking fights with ghosts. Eliza leaned forward. Read it. Thomas hesitated. Just read it. He took the letter carefully, like it might burn him. His eyes scanned the page once. Then again. His expression changed slowly. What is it? Eliza asked. Thomas didn't answer immediately. Then he said, This is from Jonah. Eliza went still. Thomas looked up. It's his handwriting. Her voice dropped. What does it say? Thomas swallowed. It's not a normal letter. Read it. He looked back down. Then began. He says. Mother says the barn is safer than the house. Eliza frowned. Safer? Thomas kept reading. I hear him at night in the hallway. Father says I am being trained. Eliza's breath slowed. Trained? Thomas stopped. This isn't right, he muttered. Keep going. He continued. If I stop writing, it means I learned the rules. Silence dropped hard into the kitchen. Eliza whispered, Rules? Thomas folded the letter slightly without meaning to. Eliza snapped, Don't crease it. He looked at her. Eliza, this is not a normal missing child situation. She stood up quickly. I never said it was. Thomas stood too now. This sounds like fear conditioning. Like control. By who? Thomas didn't answer. because the answer was already in their minds. Crow. Or something behind Crow. Eliza paced once. Mara said he was hidden. Thomas corrected her. She said he was kept silent. That's the same thing. No, Thomas said sharply. It's not. Eliza stopped walking. Then what is it? Thomas rubbed his face. It means someone didn't just disappear him. They managed him. Eliza shook her head. He was a child. I know. Then why write like that? Thomas looked down at the letter again. Because he wasn't alone. That sentence changed the room. Eliza whispered, "What do you mean?" Thomas hesitated. The barn, it wasn't just storage. Eliza stared at him. Say it. Thomas finally said, "It might have been containment." A beat. Eliza's voice went quiet. Containment of what? Thomas didn't answer immediately. Then. Of him. Eliza stepped forward fast. No. Listen to me. No, she repeated harder. You are not turning a missing boy into a monster. I'm not saying he was. Then what are you saying? Thomas exhaled sharply. I'm saying someone believed he needed to be controlled. Eliza's voice shook slightly now. And you believe that? Thomas didn't answer. That silence was answer enough. Eliza grabbed the letter from him. No. Don't do that. She read it again faster, like speed could change meaning. Her hands trembled. This doesn't sound like a monster, she said. It sounds like a child scared out of his mind. Thomas said quietly, exactly. A knock hit the front door. Both of them froze. Not soft this time. Not patient. Hard. Urgent. Thomas whispered, "Don't open it." Another knock. Then another. Eliza moved toward the hallway before she could stop herself. Thomas grabbed her arm. Eliza. She pulled free. It's Mara. It might not be. The knocking stopped. A pause. Then a voice from outside. Not Mara. Male. Cold. Open the door. Thomas cursed under his breath. Eliza whispered, "That's Crow." Thomas shook his head. No, that's worse than Crow. The voice came again. I know you have the letter. Eliza's stomach dropped. Thomas stepped back slightly. He doesn't know that. Another knock, heavier. The door rattled. Eliza whispered, "How does he know?" Thomas looked at her. Someone told him. The door shook again. The voice outside said, "Last chance." Eliza looked at the kitchen table. The letter. Thomas followed her gaze immediately. No. Eliza's breathing quickened. If they want it this badly. That's exactly why you don't give it. The door slammed once so hard the frame cracked slightly. Dust fell from the ceiling. Silence followed. Too long. Then footsteps. Walking away. Eliza didn't move. Thomas waited. After a full minute, he whispered, "They'll come back." Eliza nodded slowly. Yes. Thomas stared at her. What are we going to do? Eliza looked at the letter in her hand. Then at the stove. Then at the small flame already burning in it. Her voice was calm now in a way that scared him. We make sure no one can rewrite it, she said. Thomas frowned. Eliza. She stepped forward and placed the letter into the fire. Stop. Thomas lunged. But it was too late. Paper curled immediately. Ink blackened. The words twisted into ash. Thomas grabbed her shoulders. What did you do? Eliza watched it burn. I removed their leverage. That was evidence. It was control. Thomas stared at her like he didn't recognize her anymore. You just erased the only connection to Jonah. Eliza didn't look away from the fire. No, she said quietly. I made sure it can't be taken from us. The last corner of the letter turned black and collapsed into ash. Silence filled the kitchen again. But now it felt final. Outside, somewhere far off, a horse neighed. Thomas whispered, "Now they'll come for us." Eliza nodded. I know. And for the first time, she didn't sound afraid. Thomas fell through the loft without warning, the wood giving out like it had been waiting for him. His shout cut off halfway as his body disappeared into the dark space beneath. Eliza rushed forward, dropping to her knees at the broken boards. Thomas groaned from below, voice tight with pain and shock. Eliza grabbed the edge of the floorboards and peered into the gap. Beneath the loft was not storage but a shallow hidden cavity lined with dust and old straw. Thomas pushed himself up slightly, coughing hard. And then she saw it. A small human frame lay curled in the dirt, bones pale under years of silence. Eliza stopped breathing for a moment. Thomas saw her face and immediately understood something was wrong. No, she whispered, though no one had spoken yet. Get away from it. That's a child. Don't say that. Boots sounded on the barn stairs above them. Slow, deliberate, controlled. Sheriff Crow stepped into view. Step away from it. You already knew. I warned you. This isn't what it looks like. His eyes dropped to the bones. And something in him broke just slightly. You opened it. He was down here. Stop talking. Thomas pulled Eliza back instinctively. Crow raised his weapon, not fully aiming yet but ready. You're protecting a grave. I am protecting order. This is murder. That word hit harder than the gunfire that hadn't come. Eliza pointed at the small engraved crest on the bone fragment. Don't touch that. It's the governor's mark. Enough. You knew he was here. I said enough. Eliza didn't lower her hand from the bone fragment. Crow watched her like he was deciding whether truth or violence would win. We're leaving with him. No one leaves. Then shoot. Nobody moved. Crow exhaled, something breaking into exhaustion. He stepped back for the first time. I didn't choose this, he said quietly. But you protected it. We're done here. Crow looked at the barn like it might swallow everything still standing. Eliza finally knelt beside the remains again, ignoring Crow completely. Don't. He was alone. We can't fix this. We can carry him out. No. Yes. Crow turned away as if unable to watch what he had already allowed. Why did you do this? She asked quietly. I didn't do it alone. Who else? No answer. Eliza looked once more at the child-sized remains before covering them carefully. Thomas watched, then slowly crouched beside her. Fine, he whispered. Just don't let me regret this. Crow turned away as if unable to watch what he had already allowed. Why did you do this? She asked quietly. I didn't do it alone. Who else? No answer. Outside the barn, horses could be heard again. We're coming back. Let them. You don't understand what you started. No, I finally do. Crow's eyes tightened, realizing she was no longer afraid. Eliza, we leave now. She looked once more at the child-sized remains before covering them carefully. This doesn't end in this barn, Crow said. It already did. He pulled her toward the exit without waiting for permission. Together they stepped out into daylight that suddenly felt unfamiliar. Crow stayed behind, standing over what could no longer be hidden. And the barn, for the first time, felt like it had told its truth. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Even the barn behind them seemed quieter, as if it had finally emptied itself. We should report this. To who? Anyone who will listen. They already decided no one should. Then we don't have safety. No. The weight of the discovery settled deeper than fear now. It felt like responsibility. We can't keep carrying this alone. We already are. Far behind them, the barn door creaked once more, though no one touched it. He's still there. No. She corrected herself after a pause. Not just him, all of it. What do we do with that? We don't bury it again. They stood there until the light shifted slightly, as if the world itself was adjusting to what had been uncovered. This changes everything. It already did inside that barn. Eliza turned away first, not because she was finished, but because staying meant becoming part of it again. Thomas followed slowly. And behind them, the barn remained standing, holding nothing now except the proof that silence had a body. Crow's words still echoed in Eliza's mind as they walked. Do you think he'll come after us? He already did. And for the first time neither of them looked back. Not because they were safe, but because looking back would mean accepting there was still a way to fix what had been done. In the distance the town remained unaware that something had shifted beneath its silence, and those who knew would never return to who they were before the barn was opened all. The first shot didn't feel real. It cracked through the barn air like wood snapping under pressure, and for half a second nobody moved. Then Thomas dropped to his knee, clutching his shoulder. Eliza, run! Eliza froze. Crow stood at the far end of the barn, gun raised, chest rising too fast now, like control had finally slipped. I told you, he said, voice breaking slightly, to stop digging. Smoke hadn't even started yet. But the barn already felt like it was burning from the inside. Eliza shouted, You shot him. Crow didn't answer. Thomas pressed his hand hard against his shoulder. Blood seeped through his fingers. It's not fatal, he hissed. I think. Eliza rushed toward him. Crow snapped, Don't move. She stopped mid-step. For the first time, fear and anger mixed into something sharper. You shot a man for opening a floorboard. Crow's voice was tight. You opened a grave that wasn't yours. Thomas laughed once through pain. It's a child, Sheriff. Not a secret. Crow's jaw clenched. It was never just a child, he said. Silence hit the room again. Eliza looked between them. Then what was it? Crow didn't answer. Instead, he stepped backward slightly, eyes flicking to the lantern on the ground. Still burning. The flame had spread oil across the floor without anyone noticing. Slow. Quiet. Dangerous. Eliza saw it first. The fire. Thomas turned his head. Oh no. Crow looked down. For a moment, none of them moved. Then Crow cursed under his breath. Get out, he said suddenly. Eliza shook her head. Not without him. Crow snapped, Now. The fire caught wood near the broken crate. A small flame became a line. A line became a wall. Smoke climbed fast. The barn shifted from cold silence to heat and crackling wood in seconds. Thomas struggled to his feet. We don't have time. Eliza grabbed his arm. Can you walk? Not fast. Crow moved toward the exit, then stopped when he saw Eliza still not moving. You want truth, he shouted over the growing fire. This is what truth does. Eliza screamed back, You did this. Crow hesitated. That hesitation cost him control. Flames crawled up the barn walls. The wooden swing caught fire first. It burned slow at the edges, still moving slightly. Back. Forth. Back. Forth. Until it stopped. Eliza stared at it for half a second too long. Thomas pulled her. Eliza, move. She broke free and grabbed the small bundle covering the remains below the loft. Crow saw it. No, he shouted. Leave it. Eliza didn't listen. She dragged it toward the exit. Smoke thickened fast. Vision blurred. Heat pressed into skin. Wood cracked overhead. Crow reached them at the door. "You're killing yourself for bones." Eliza pushed past him. "They're not bones. They're proof." Crow grabbed her arm again. "Let it burn." She turned on him, face covered in soot and tears she didn't notice. "You already burned him once," she said. That hit something in him. He let go. For a split second. Thomas stumbled through the doorway first. Eliza followed, dragging the bundle. Crow stayed inside. Eliza turned back instinctively. "Crow, come on." He didn't move.